Alright guys, we're here with the SOG Baton Q4 today. Let me just preface this by saying that I'm not a YouTube professional. I guess I'm not really a professional at anything, just especially not a YouTube professional. But when I was looking for information on these Q4s, I couldn't find a lot of videos that were out there when I was trying to gather information. At least I couldn't find videos that were out there from people who weren't trying to sell me one directly. So I figured I'd put this out there for anybody else who might be on the fence, trying to gather information, that want to know what just a regular Joe Blow has to say about it. You know, I love multi-tools, I really do. So I was pumped when I saw this because the multi-tool market has been so stagnant for so long, and it just seems so nice to finally see a little bit of innovation, see something new. So I jumped on it, and I don't really have any structured talking points or anything like that. So I guess I'll kind of just go through and tell you what I like and what I don't like as I show you what this thing's all about. I can't remember exactly how much I picked this up for. It was like 80 or 90 bucks. That's US American dollars, not shekels. Alright, so I guess we'll start with the onboard tool selection here. So we'll start with the knife. Now the knife is pitiful. I say that because it's small, which in and of itself isn't really that big of a deal, but it's small, it's awkward to get in and out, it's just kind of, tricky, I guess. And they used really crummy steel for it. They used 5CR 13 MOV, I can't remember. Now, I'm not a steel snob, but if I'm paying almost $100 for something, I expect, I don't know, something in the middle of the road at least. Complete bottom of the barrel Chinese steel at $100 price point kind of rubs me the wrong way, but whatever. So the knife sucks. That's going to be a deal breaker for some people, but I always carry a larger folder or a fixed blade on me regardless, so it doesn't really bother me too bad. Next up is the file. Now, funny thing about the file, if you look on SOG's website, even on the description of this tool at knifecenter.com, it says this is a 3-sided file. It's not a 3-sided file. It's a 2-sided file. But really, it's just a 1-sided file because the fine side is so worthless, I couldn't get it to file anything. Not anything. The coarse side isn't much better. It'll work okay on, it seems like, softer metals like brass and aluminum. But on softer stuff, for some reason, fingernails, plastic, wood, horrible. So if you're used to, say, Leatherman's files, where they consistently knock them out of the park and make great files, you're going to want to throw rocks at this one. It's, pretty much worthless. Next up is the openers. Yes, openers, plural. For whatever reason, they thought it would be a good idea to put a can opener and a bottle opener on this tool. I don't really understand that, but I mean, whatever. The bottle opener flathead combo, I guess these have come in handy for me a few times, if I'm being honest, using this flathead for light scraping or prying to save the tip of my knife. That's come in handy, yeah, but a legit can opener, like old school can opener, I've probably used one of these once in my life, maybe just to see if it worked. I don't really get the reasoning behind having both of them there. So pretty much the entire row of tools here are almost worthless. They might as well not even be there, honestly, except for the knife. I mean, I guess it's always kind of handy to have a smaller blade. You know, just keep it razor sharp for those times where you need like a extra sharp, scalpel, whatever. But it would be better if this was, I mean, shit, even 420 high carbon would be a step up from one of the 5 CRs, but oh well. Luckily enough, that's where the dislikes stop on this tool. From here on out, it's all a cakewalk. So next up, we come to the pliers that are spring opening. Love it. The machining on them is pretty good. There's no side-to-side play in the jaws at all. They meet up at the tip. I probably won't be able to get that to focus, but they meet up at the tip fairly well. No complaints there. Not quite needle nose, not quite blunt tip, somewhere in between, but I like them. They're good. The other cool thing about it is when it's shut, you can give it a good flick and you can open it up one-handed, like so, which I really like. It's come in handy for me being able to whack it open. Whack it open. Anyways, then we come to the magnificent piece of engineering perfection that is this 1/4-inch bit driver. This thing is amazing, and I'll tell you why. It's for a few different reasons, but first it takes standard 1/4-inch bits, which I think is awesome. It kind of makes up for the lack of onboard tools, if you will. Now the other thing is the way this tool's shaped lends it to handling like an actual dedicated ratcheting screwdriver. So now this part took me a little bit to figure out. To get this bit out, you push down right there, and that lifts it up. So you pop it in like so, and you're in there like swimwear. It's got a little selector there. And I mean, this thing is really, really nice to use. Just yesterday, I was putting together a weed whacker that I picked up at the local Sears is going out of business, and I got a weed whacker for super cheap. And I used this, and it's funny because anytime I'm using the bit driver on one of my bigger multi-tools, like my Charge, the entire time I'm constantly being reminded that I'm using a multi-tool because of how clunky and awkward it can be to use. That's not what it is, but this thing is this bit driver is integrated so seamlessly into the tool you don't even realize you're using a multi-tool. It's pretty Cadillac, if you ask me. I mean, it's just perfection, like I said. So, like I mentioned, I do have a Charge TTI, and that's been my go-to full-size multi-tool for years now. I love it. I really love it. But I'm always kind of on the hunt for smaller multi-tools that I can carry in my pocket comfortably on days when I don't need the Charge TTI. And for a long time, that's been this guy right here, the Juice S2. But since I picked up the SOG Q4, I haven't carried this not one single time, and that's for a few reasons. On those days when I don't need a full-size multi-tool, on light-duty days off, on weekends, whatever, anytime I pull this out, there's only a few different things that I'm doing with it. I'm either using the pliers, and even though I like the pliers on the Juice a little better, they're not as usable as the pliers on the Q4. For one, they're not spring-loaded. Secondly, the Q4's pliers are much more comfortable to use. Anybody who's got a S2 will know that there can be some sharp edges in here underneath the scales, and then when you really go to put some torque on it, the nail nicks right here can dig into your fingers, your palm. It can really be a pain in the ass. So I'm either using the pliers or I'm using one of these drivers. Now, for a small multi-tool, the Juice has pretty good drivers on it, but it just cannot hold a candle to the bit driver on this. So in that sense, it's already 2 for 2. And thirdly, the Juice doesn't have a pocket clip on it. And this isn't my first Juice. I've had to replace Juices before. I've had to replace this Juice before. Because it doesn't have a pocket clip. It's probably laying out in my yard from playing with my kids some nice, beautiful Sunday. Lose one of my favorite multi-tools. Ruin my day. But the SOG Q4 has a really nice, sturdy steel pocket clip on it. You can slip it in your front pocket, slip it in your back pocket. You don't got to worry about it bouncing out. You don't got to worry about it getting all sideways, driving you crazy. It is a little bit bigger, but because of the way it carries like a smaller multi-tool. So it's completely replaced the Juice S2 in almost every aspect. It's real. I really can't get enough of this thing, and that's the niche that this fills. On days when, say, like I'm out on a bike ride with the kids, or spending the afternoon at the swap meet, or running errands where I'm going to be in and out of the car all day, and I don't need a full-size multi-tool hanging off my belt driving me crazy. If it's at all possible for me to get away with not carrying the extra bulk, I will. And that's where this thing just shines. I'm telling you. I mean, it is fairly limited, but what it's limited to, it does extremely well. So if you're looking for something that's a well-rounded, do-it-all multi-tool, you're going to be disappointed if you pick this up. Which is kind of funny because they market this thing as like a wilderness survival man vs. wild special, which that's like the absolute last thing I would use this for. I don't know why you would need a 1/4-inch bit driver out in the woods. It's that just seems silly to me. But if you're somebody like me who's looking for something to carry on those days when you don't need something like a saw or full-size plier heads, or you don't need a really nice file or anything like that, that's where this thing comes in, and it's really really, really nice. Is it the best? Well, I hate to sound douchey and cliche, but best is subjective and varies wildly from person to person. It it depends on what you do, how you do it, and how you like to carry your stuff. But I'd say in the small pocket carry multi-tool department, hell yeah, dude. This is for sure the best in my eyes. Like, it does have some serious drawbacks, and like I mentioned, the lack of a solid primary blade on it, the crummy file, not having scissors might be a big deal for some, but like on my Juice, I might only use those scissors once in a blue moon to trim a rogue nose hair or a mustache hair that's creeping into my mouth, and that's about it. So it is what it is. I don't regret buying it. I like it. But yeah, I'm a fan. But like I said, if I'm heading to work, if I'm at a HVAC job site, or if I'm doing some steel work, hitting the woods, trust and believe, my Charge TTI will be on my belt. Any other time other than that, if my wife's dragging me to IKEA and I'm having to put a bunch of shit together when we get home, this is what I'm going to be using. That's where this thing shines. This thing shines when you're dicking around the house, or you know, taking your kids for a walk to the park or something like that. That's what it's really good at. Suburbanite dad stuff. Anyways, if you're watching, I hope you got something out of that. If you got any questions, anything, holler at me. I'd love to be help to somebody. But that's all I got for now. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.